doing this morning. I wanted to put this video out there. It's obviously a little slanted towards California, but as a real estate investor, I think something you should do is really ask yourself about what's going on in your state, because I think it's very clear that taxes are going to have to go up. Because a lot of states are suffering pretty limits the increase in your property tax value. I don't remember what the real stat is. Call it like 1.5% a year. Prop 13, simply said, is the only reason I was raised in Sunnyvale, California. See, my parents were in the military, both high school educated. They bought their first home with the GI Bill in the 70s. I want to say they spent like 25 grand. And if you know anything about the Silicon Valley, that house went up exponentially, ultimately being sold for $1 million in like 2014 or 15, just something ridiculous. And it was nothing to behold. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, flat. Well, it was bought as a flat roof. It was just because it was in Sunnyvale. It was near Apple. It was near all these tech companies. And the reason I bring this up is because, again, Prop 13 is the only reason my mother was able to stay there until she ultimately sold, right? Her property tax was $300 or $400 a year, when her neighbor's property tax bill was, $8, $12, $14,000. Because Prop 13 basically instituted property taxes on the purchase price of your home. So it is really what allowed a whole generation of school teachers to kind of stay, right? Where I grew up, on the street I grew up on, there were plenty of folks that were not even high school educated. I mean, they didn't graduate, but they were able, post office mom was staying home. Not have lived there if property taxes went up. I mean, an $8,000 property tax bill would have made my mother move. She couldn't have afforded it. So Prop 13 is going to have an impact. And I think Gavin Newsom is absolutely going to repeal it. He's going to position it as something you have to have. He's going to try to dress it up in a costume and put some makeup on it. But it's going to hurt California. And, I believe this will be on the ballot at the end of the year. I believe you and I, as California voters, will vote against it. And then Gavin Newsom and his cronies will come in and just do it anyway. And if you don't think that's possible, just go back and look at what happened 2 years ago with rent control. We had Prop 10 on the California ballot. You and I voted against it 6-4. It was like 62% no, 38% yes. So we said basically F off. And Gavin Newsom and his cronies came in and said, no, I know better. I'm going to institute an assembly bill called and it's going to be dressed as, hey, we got to pay for this. We got to fund schools. We got to do all these things. And we're going to say no, because we don't like taxes. We don't like the impact it would have on our neighborhoods, all the forced sales and probably drop in property values. We would see a whole swath of folks have to leave because they can't afford the bill. And then I think he's going to come over the top, just like he did with Assembly Bill 1482, and say, nope, I know better. And Prop 13 is gone. I think this is in our future for the next 12 months. And logically speaking, you got to kind of get it, right? $54 billion shortfall in tax receipts revenue. Prop 13 is one of those bills or those things that is in California law that kind of makes California unique. Right? You go from a tax base on a simple house in California or Sunnyvale, California of $350 to $12,000. You do that times how many homes are out there? That's a lot of tax receipts. And you do that ongoing. I honestly don't know that Gavin Newsom has a choice, frankly. It's not a great choice to have. But as a real estate investor, we need to know what's coming. Prop 13 will be under attack. They will try to dress it up in lots of different ways. They'll go after commercial real estate. They'll go after investors. They'll go after all these other things. But ultimately, they're going to have to come after mom and pop. We just need to be ready for it. And again, when Prop 13 goes out, you're going to see Cal exit. It just has to happen. You can't afford it. I know my mom loved Sunnyvale. And when I was already out of the house a decade, if Prop 13 was gone, she would have had to sell. She would have been a forced seller. It's just coming. So again, I go back to the rent control because a lot of you will say, no, it can't happen because we'll vote against it. Well, we all voted against Prop 10. And then lo and behold, seemingly months later, Assembly Bill 1482 came out and we had rent control at the state level, even though you and I said no. So be ready for it. Gavin Newsom knows better than you and I. At least that's what he's told us with rent control. So Cal exit, here we come. All right, everybody, just get ready. Thanks.